So, hey guys, today we're going to do a quick breakdown of the previous, I guess we'll call it Tenpai meta. Not to say that like Tenpai was necessarily the best deck, merely that this is probably the best that Tenpai is going to be for a long while. So, notably, the only hit to Tenpai on the release is going to be the fact that Sangan Summoning is at 2. And is going to be hit, so the hits are going to look like this. We're going to have, I believe it's one of Summoning, and then one of Shudra, so like that. But the thing about Tenpai itself is that it's not that insanely good of a deck. So we'll just go over the notable parts. So first off, Tenpai, well, we struggle to out certain things in Tenpai, so the only thing we can really do is to out some problematic cards by battle, and to do that, we go through Sangan Summoning. So we just pop Sangan Summoning, and then we can double the attack of a Dragon Synchro monster in particular. So this would probably be Trident Dragon usually. So the highest we can possibly achieve currently in terms of attack would be if we were to have Trident Dragon, or maybe like a Dispatter if you're playing that, and we can double their attack twice. So for Trident Dragon specifically, that would be 12,000 attack points, and that would allow you to run over most things. But on the off chance you're against the towers with more than 12,000 attack points with this extra deck, it is just literally impossible to out anything. Like, it's just not going to happen. So if we were to, for example, grab a Blackwing Full Armor Master, just for example, here's the problem. So Blackwing Full Armor Master, if you're playing Blackwing, you'll probably usually have this paired with a copy of Sharnga in the graveyard, and Sharnga says that you can bash this once per duel to target one face-up card your opponent controls and destroy it. So when we combine the fact that this is a 3k towers and we have a Sangan Summoning required to destroy this, but it can destroy a face-up Sangan Summoning, and it has 3,000 defense, meaning you can't really beat over it by battle. That's a pretty awkward spot to be in. But let's take it one step further. So what if we have a towers that just can't be destroyed by battle? That's right, you're getting hit by the Crooked Cook. So Crooked Cook, let's assume, is not destructible by battle, and that could be for a multitude of reasons. Not going to go over all of them right now, but we're going to assume this is the case, that it's not destructible by battle. So now attack points are not going to be part of the equation here. So the only way you can win now is by piercing, removing Crooked Cook, or attacking directly, or burn. It's one of those four, I suppose, or maybe even win condition, like, I don't know, let's say Exodia. So technically we have 5 different types of win conditions we could go for if our opponent sets up a Crooked Cook that specifically cannot be destroyed by battle. So now with Tenpai, how can we out Crooked Cook? Let's see. Do we have piercing? No. Do we have any way to remove Crooked Cook? No. And in my opinion, like, whenever I evaluate a deck's engine specifically, we're mostly going to focus on the deck. I focus on if it can out a Crooked Cook that is not destructible by battle. Don't ask me why I do this, I just do. And just for example, if we go with Snake Eye, guess what? Snake Eye actually has an out for Crooked Cook. So, yeah, you know, you won't lose the deck out, or your opponent fully drawing Exodia after like 30 turns or whatever. So with Snake Eye, we have Flamberge. Flamberge specifically says, right here, you can target one face-up monster on the field or in either graveyard, place it face-up in its owner's spell and trap zone as a continuous spell. So if you have a Snake Eyes Slam Bridge Dragon, your opponent eventually has to discard for hand size limit, and you do need monsters to make Crooked Cook. So yeah, you can just Flamberge put guys into your opponent's back row, and doing so makes it so that Crooked Cook is actually affected. So yeah, if you manage that, you'll out the Crooked Cook eventually, and I mean, it's not the quickest way, but technically Snake Eye can do it. So honestly, a D tier in terms of outing Crooked Cook. Tenpai would be, I guess, F tier. And if we randomly throw in Ninja, a deck I think is just fairly subpar. You just attack directly here. So you can ignore Crooked Cook. So that's fine. And then for Sprite, you play the Mosquito, which I mean, I'll count that because you run it for Zeus anyways, and it's more effective than running Centuria for rank 2 XEs. And for Pearly, do you have an out for Crooked Cook and Pearly? Hmm. I don't think you do, right? Yeah, so Pearly, eh, can't even out a Crooked Cook. But yeah, this is essentially a different topic altogether. So let's get back on track. So Tenpai going first. Well, we'll talk about that next, I guess. So, does anyone know the Tenpai going first board? If you said, I literally make Hieratic Seal of the Heavenly Spheres, and if I feel like it, I'll also make Sengenpai Biden Dragon and Sengenpai Transcendent Dragon first and put them in the graveyard. And then we'll pass. After we end on Hieratic Seal of the Heavenly Spheres, that'd be correct. And this introduces a major weakness in that Hieratic Seal of the Heavenly Spheres, let's be honest, if you just pass on this is just pretty trash. So, I don't know. But let's say we're playing just kind of a moderate deck that doesn't go too hard, doesn't have too many extenders or that many insane plays. So we'll go with like just pure Unchained, I guess. So if we're pure Unchained going second against Tenpai, we might look out for some hand traps here. So there's not that many hand traps here. But all right, let's do a quick test. So, oh, this is nothing but hand traps. Okay, so the main thing here is that we just need to deal with Mexi. Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit is completely useless against Unchained. If we also had Droll, that would be pretty useless. I mean, it depends on the exact hand, but just in general, not very useful. So if we have the Maxi, we're good. The Forbidden Droplet, also, I don't think too problematic here. Just genuinely no. So we can technically remove this, I believe. And it's just a matter of if we open like Ash Blossom or Called By for the Maxi, we can just deal with Ash Blossom Drift Spring. We can tank it, honestly. Sometimes we can't, sometimes we can, but if you open like a decent hand, it's not that bad because you can play tactics, talents, and stuff. You kind of draw through Dash. It mostly depends on if you open Unchained Soul of Sharvara, I suppose. In a 3-card hand where you have Sharvara, Aruha, and then any Unchained card, period, that would allow you to combo. So that's great, I guess. And there was no interruptions aside from the hand traps. So realistically, we were looking at just Ash Blossom Drift Spring. Even if we don't have an immediate out for the Maxi, we're still fine because even if we can't find lethal, it's not like you can immediately lethal off of like one draw or two, depending on how things go, I guess. So, all right, that's pretty much what I expect to see from going for a Tenpai anyways. And then here we have Imperm. So if we utilize these guys to their max here, that would be 2 interruptions essentially. It's imperm plus seals pass, which is fine and all, but you know, a lot of decks can kill you from seals pass with imperm. Just not really a problem here. This is just genuinely not that great either. This is seals pass with imperm, ash blossom, and Joel. So the issue of having Joel and Ash Blossom at the same time is you want your opponent to technically search so you can Joel, but if you Ash them, you might not be able to Joel them, so that's a little bit awkward, but yeah. That's about how that goes. And now we're going to start talking about, I guess, the fact that people were just trying to hard counter Tenpai, and well, yeah, it kind of works. So first off, we have the idea of secret villaging Tenpai. So Tenpai, what do we do exactly without any spells? So let's assume we cannot activate spells. All right. Sangan Summoning has the effect to make your monsters unaffected during the main phase 1. So this effect is kind of like, honestly, it's like meh. Sometimes it's relevant, sometimes it's not. It's situational. So when it doesn't really help is when the deck you're playing against has removal in general. But if it doesn't have removal, then that's when Sangan Summoning is popping off, or when you open removal for whatever their removal is. So in the case of Yubel, we have Escape of the Unchained, I believe, and that can pop Sangan Summoning, and you just very consistently end with that on your end board. But if you just sack them with Lightning Storm and then activate Sangan Summoning, I mean, I guess it's good then, but if you just had the Sangan Summoning by itself, it's not like going that crazy. Even if we did Sangan Summoning and then it started attempting combo, you cannot summon Chundra from the hand because of Apollosa being able to negate, and then you can also negate Genroku effect to either special summon itself or to special summon another guy from the deck, which these two are essentially the targets that you would add off of Sangan Summoning. Aside from that, you can resolve Hydra quite comfortably, I suppose. Or you can try for Black Rose Dragon. But of course, this destroys your Sangan Summoning. It also requires essentially, well, with an asterisk, 2 Tenpai guys to make. Which also, I mean, I'm going to throw this out there. I'm pretty sure you don't have enough bodies to make Underworld Goddess and actually do an OTK. So we'll calc that out real quick. So we'll assume we opened Hydra with Sangan Summoning. That's about as good as it gets for in terms of bodies, I believe. Unless we also throw in Chundra, I think. It kind of depends, but alright. Normal summon Hydra, add summoning, so that's one body, and then we can grab Genroku, and then if we activate Genroku effect, we are going to be dragon locked, so we can't do that. So if we special summon Genroku and special summon Chundra, that's still only 3 guys. If we activate Sangan Summoning and we were to like somehow summon Fadra, that's not even 4 guys, and we need essentially 4 bodies on our field for the Underworld Goddess, right? Let's see, what's the wording on this? You can also use 1 monster your opponent controls as material to link summon this card. 4+ effect monsters. So we can't really link climb up with this, so that doesn't help, and we can't use Biden to attempt to get any extra material, I believe, right? Because this dragon locks you right here. So you would need a completely insane hand. So if we were able to, let's see, how would we do Fadra effect? If we were to make a link to like Hita first, I guess we could do that, and then we would normal summon Fadra instead. So add Genroku to special summon Genroku. So the effect to special summon itself does not lock you, but the effect to summon another guy will lock you. So, one, two, three, and then four. So we would need to do that, but afterwards, I believe we can't really extend unless we maybe have Sengen Kaiman. Do we need Sengen Kaiman to do this? Technically, no, right? We, we could have just had the Chundra. We don't have to technically search Chundra. Well, I mean, we might after this. So we're definitely not making Underworld Goddess after we get limited to one Chundra, but yeah, making Underworld Goddess not very efficient. I mean, if you have the turns to kill like you're against Crooked Cook, then it's fine, right? But in one turn, it seems like it would be quite a struggle to make Underworld Goddess and actually kill your opponent. I think against an empty board, assuming your opponent was on Crooked Cook though, and you opened like 3-4 engine, we could probably go Chundra, I guess, right? Special summon Chundra off of Sengen Kaiman, and then you have the Goddess. That's probably enough to well, yeah, you never activated Biden, so you should still be able to go into Secret. Then you can kill against an empty board. So, I mean, that's cool. But if we look at it from a different perspective, I guess, you know, all we're doing with Tenpai is we're just trying to blow out our opponent or sack our opponent with some non-engine, and then dropping an engine that can like just OTK our opponent like somewhat efficiently. Honestly, there are other decks that could kind of do this. It's just a matter of how efficient, I guess. Technically, we could play Gimmick Puppet in the same way, probably. But we'll think about that another time. So, the other thing on top of that is that with all of these Tenpai cards and all of the Tenpai cards being played, well, everyone was just trying to hard counter Tenpai, so we're back on topic for that, I guess. So, if we have, let's see, if we have a bunch of different decks against Tenpai, it kind of just brutalizes you. So, one of the key cards for Tenpai, if you want to try to sack your opponent, I think one of the key ones is Forbidden Droplet. So Kashtira by itself, well, Arise Heart just completely deals with the Forbidden Droplet. So if we look at what we have remaining in the main deck, we have Infinite Impermanence, which you might use on the Unicorn, which then leaves you with not much. So we have pretty much hard open your 3 of Imperm. So you've, assuming, well, in this case, in this build, you have triple tactics talents, you have a 40% chance to have something that works on a Rise Heart. So that's kind of trash. And also, of course, you're going second deck, so your opponent really does have a lot of free reign because they are simply choosing. Well, their build will be most commonly going first build, so that is a thing I guess to worry about. So with the very specific Tenpai counters, we'll just go over those real quick. We have Dimensional Barrier, so you have like Thrust for Dimensional Barrier, Hard Open Dimensional Barrier, whatever Dimensional Barrier, Declare Synchro. There's no real counterplay to that. You need Synchros to OTK, so you're suffering there. We have Protos Declare Fire. All of your monsters here are going to be fire, so you might as well just read the effect as you can't summon. And then we have Eshkatos, which is essentially the same thing, and then Secret Village, and then an actual end board with some Omni Negates and whatnot, so you cannot activate Forbidden Droplet to just freely get over your opponent's monsters on their end board anymore. So, yeah. All of those situations kind of just beat out Tenpai. and the pen slot deck just has a lot of one card combos. It's kind of annoying. I don't know why, or if I'm just unlucky, but I just get hit by Ostinato every single time against that deck, and if I Ash it, they have something else. If I don't Ash it, they're full combo. So yeah, pretty miserable experience, all things considered. And even if I have like an imperm for the guy they summon, it's still going to be extra bodies, and sometimes it's going to allow my opponent to get a scale, which is still annoying. But yeah. To really summarize, I guess, this little mini format, I guess you could call it, I think Tenpai was not actually that great. And if we just allowed this format to linger for longer, you might be under the realization that if you were to, let's assume the player base, 99% of players were playing Tenpai, then you'd be stuck with Tenpai mirrors. So if we were to then have everyone playing Tenpai, who is usually going to be the one that wins? Well, it's simple. It's whoever won the coin flip and decided, I am actually going second. So in this case, you can see this hand, I'll just drop like a maxi, and then I'll be able to kind of just cook my opponent, you know? Because I activate Sengen Summoning. And then if you were to seals here, I'll just activate Sengen Summoning, but again, and I'll probably win. Unless you have like some really nasty hand trap as your like opener or in your opener. So it's very favored for the going second player. So it's just essentially the same thing as before, where it's just reversed. So right now, of course, in Yu-Gi-Oh! In general, going first is pretty strong. So whenever you win coin flip, you decide going first, you'll win most of the time, probably, unless you get sacked. But like, you know, just in general, going first has a lot of different advantages. So we'll just look at this in terms of like card advantage. So if we do a one card combo with Yubel, so that would be like normal summon D Lotus, you end on like something like 7 or 9 interruptions. And then you have, let's assume the other 4 cards are going to be non-engine. So in this case, you might have like stuff like Cult by, Crossout, Maxi, Ash Blossom, Imperm, Droll, whatever. So all of those cards are technically also interruptions. So that puts us at like 13. So we have 13 different interruptions to kind of deal with, but we only have 6 cards to do so. So that is nearly like for every single card in our hand, we have to deal with 2 different interruptions essentially. So that could be further explained, but I'm not going to really get too into it today. But yeah, that's great, isn't it? And then as the going second player, the amount of interruptions you would have is 5 at most. But assuming you're running that many hand traps, you have no play for next turn, so you would just be passing back and forth. So that's not really an option. So usually you would either more realistically have either 2 to 3 hand traps and then 2 engine or 3 engine. So depending on exactly what your opponent's playing and how much engine they have, yeah, you're just going to trade off some hand traps that essentially won't do much, or will well just kind of don't do anything. Or alternatively, you will just be able to stop your opponent and then be able to play whatever you were going to do, and you'll be up a card. So yeah, I mean, it could happen. But most of the time, I think what happens is that your opponent is going to run you over with whatever engine they have. And the worst part about playing Tenpai is that technically your opponent here can sacrifice non-engine and run less hand traps of certain varieties. Like, we could cut Imperm altogether. And technically, like, Maxi, Droll, whatever, and just put in specifically anti-Tenpai, like, hand traps. and you would be doing potentially better, right? That depending on like how the meta goes. But Tenpai does not really require that amount of hate, even if we're not going all the way and putting out like Protoss, D barrier. There's still ways to beat like Tenpai, right? So with Paleo, for example, we could do Dharma Karma Cannon with like one guy face down on our field, and then that sends our opponent's entire field into the graveyard. So yeah, you have options. That is to say, and I mean, it's not like that broken, that oppressive, that toxic. Honestly, this has been the most Yu-Gi-Oh I've played in a while. You know, where my opponent, I mean, sure, they're dropping a lot of hand traps on me, because I guess sometimes that happens. But aside from that, I mean, yeah, I mean, I haven't been that bothered by Tenpai. Compared to, for example, I don't know, let's say we had full power filaments in the context of Master Duel, as full power as they got. We will activate Herald of the Orange Light, sending the Ishizu Miller, and then we'll mill 5 guys, and then now you are staring down Rukelos. Or maybe Kaleido Heart spun a guy back for you. And that's just painful. And also, maybe they hate some shufflers, so they can shuffle some guys in your graveyard back. So let's just pretend for one moment that Tenpai is actually going first deck. So we're going to be making Biden on our first turn. We'll be trying to reborn a guy, and then this got shuffled. Whatever we were trying to summon back, can't use that anymore. And also, they might shuffle Biden back, or you know what? They'll just negate Biden altogether and then shuffle back like our Biden or whatever with like Rukelos and Mudora. Well, that's great, you know. They turned the cost of Herald of the Orange Light into essentially just another effect, whether it's like Mudora effect or like Mill 5, which gets you into Kikelos, then Rukelos, which is just disgusting. So yeah, I would rate the Tenpai meta like a 6 or 7 out of 10. You know, the main reason that I think this meta was still not that fun to play against was mostly because everyone just started cramming Secret Village into like whatever deck. So you're seeing like a lot of Secret Village and even like Tier Limit. In the later end of this, yeah, that was just happening a lot. So yeah, I absolutely hate it. In terms of like what the meta is overall, I don't necessarily know what the best deck would be to play in this situation, but I do know that going second is a lot more viable because Tenpai going first, not great. And you know, it's just pretty standard going second. And there are just strategies and things you can do for going second that might favor you a bit. Depends exactly. But what perfectly counters this a little bit is that we now have a new FTK archetype, and I don't think there is a genuine FTK archetype aside from Gimmick Puppet as of currently. Like technically you an Exodia FTK, but that's not with all archetypal cards in the same way Gimmick Puppet does it, right? So with Gimmick Puppet, we can FTK now, and that makes going first like a little bit stronger in a different way. So you kind of need to run hand traps for that, and that makes board breakers a little bit worse in comparison to hand traps. So that's also awkward. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys today. And if you have any thoughts or opinions on the little Tenpai meta we've had, yeah, let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.